Yeah, it was great. It was needed. Definitely gave the guys a chance to heal up and got a head start on our opponent. Different, obviously, than bye week number one, where you're looking at 7 games and trying to really break yourself down with only 2 games following that. You're not going to have the same type of information come out of those 2 weeks. So it was really more about how healthy can we get and get ready for, not just this game, but knowing our next game is a short week game. We felt like we really had to rest our guys as much as we could and get them back, and it worked. I mean, we've had some really good practices coming out of the bye week. I thought the guys really ran around well.
But you had some good momentum too after the victory. I mean,
Yeah.
how'd that balance out?
Well, I mean, it's great to have that feeling going into a bye. Losing's terrible, and it's as a coach, you don't sleep very good. And when you go into a bye week after a loss, it's a long time before you get a chance to take that taste out of your mouth, and it's the opposite. And what you got to guard against is complacency that can come from that. And it's the first thing I talk to the guys about. Like, we have to understand what it took to get that win. And to be able to repeat something like that, and it's even harder on the road. When you go on the road and play a top-ranked team like we are in their environment, you got to be even more dialed in. And so, been really guarded against the attaboy syndrome, I guess you call it, trying to get these guys to understand, hey, enjoy the win for a couple days because we have a bye, but then once we started our Miami prep, that's over. We got to flush it just like you do a loss.
Did you talk to the team about bowl eligibility?
No, and they know what our record is. We're just trying to win a game.
What have you seen from Tristan the past 2 weeks? He's been in a pretty key spot in secondary.
He's gotten a lot better. Several of our freshmen have really improved throughout the year, and Tristan's one of them. I'm proud of him. He's become a great communicator. That was something he wasn't when he got here. He was pretty shy about making loud calls on the field. Now he's in charge of things back there. And I always look at safeties like a sheriff. Like, they got to be the one that's barking commands and getting people to do the right thing in the building. And that's one of his responsibilities. And he and Assad have done a nice job in that area. Kevon has gotten better and better throughout the year for us as a true freshman. Caden Gordon, his last 3 weeks of practice, getting better and better. Jared Kemp, getting better and better. And so, really excited about, even though they're not playing as much in games, because we've already played Caden in 4, just the growth. These guys are taking the developmental periods that they have in the practice and getting better in practice and building for us so that we know what they can be moving forward.
With that said, the 4 games, do you have a lot of decisions to make on kids that you might want to redshirt possibly?
They're pretty much made at this point. Yeah, I mean, there's kids that we've played for and they're done until hopefully we have postseason, and there's kids that we've Spike's already played more than 4. Farrell's played more than 4, and so there's some guys that we've already had that discussion.
When you look at Tristan and Assad, 2 young guys in the secondary, what does that just say about the safety room that 2 of those guys can kind of step into those key roles and play pretty well?
Yeah, I think Coach Doeren deserves a lot of credit and how he's gotten these guys to grow through his time here, and then those young men deserve the credit too. I think Assad Brown has done a tremendous job being versatile. Played nickel, played strong, played free. We can plug him into any one of those spots, and that wasn't where it started. Back in January, it was just, hey, learn the nickel position, and let's compete and see who our starting nickel's going to be. And then when it became Jackson, we started in training camp. I said, Assad, learn strong safety, and so that both of those spots. And then Jackson gets hurt, he becomes our starting nickel. Jackson comes back, and then we have other injuries, and he becomes our starting strong and then free. And so I'm really proud of him. I think that's a lot. And when you look at today's college offenses and how many formations and style of play, drop back quarterback one week, running quarterback the next, tempo team this week, formation, motion, shift, like there's a lot going on for DB. And to be able to play 3 spots in your first year as a true starter says a lot about his football IQ.
It feels like Kenny Soares has also settled into his role. How important is it for him and Caden and the rest of those guys in the linebacker room to really be working together and feel confident in their specific spots?
Yeah, I agree. I think, since Kenny's moved from our jack position to Will, it's taken him some time to be an off-the-ball, every-down linebacker. And last week was probably the biggest test. That offense, a lot of window dressing, a lot of +1 runs, and where fits are so critical, and getting off blocks and tackling. And he and Caden both played really well last week. And so it's good to see that, with Sean Brown out and A.J. Richardson out. It's been a 2-man deal in there, and those guys have really been durable and tough, and you know, the tandem and how they play off each other is important. There's a good relationship between those two guys.
You guys don't play Syracuse, but I'm sure you've seen a lot of their film in the last 3 games. You know, does that help when you're comparing, you know, a team you're about to play? It's the same team you're seeing on film again and again.
It can. I honestly wish we'd see some other people, you know, because schematically we're not like them on defense. And so, you know, to be able to see someone play before you that's more similar, because everyone offensively, with the exception of the QB run game at Georgia Tech, is pretty similar when you look at formations and tailback runs and pass concepts. So, yeah, I would rather see other teams that play similar schemes to us than the same team, you know, that doesn't.
You guys ran the ball really well against Georgia Tech. How important will that be this week against Miami?
Yeah, and it's a test. I mean, they're giving up 88 yards a game, and so one of the top rushing defenses in college football. And because of their front, you know, those D linemen are really good players. Their defensive coordinator adds one to the box quite a bit with 5-man pressures, and they're going to try to +1 you, and they don't understand. You can see he understands how to target run blitzes, and he's done a good job schematically with his guys. I think their free safety and nickel tackle really well in the box. And so to answer your question, it's going to be critical to not be one-dimensional, and some of it's going to be ugly. You know, you just got to keep the plays from being negative yardage plays. Sometimes a 1 or a 2 yard dirty run is good, you know, is good. And eventually those can become more and more if you have sustained drives and can get guys tired on the other side of the football.
Is that it for Coach?